Hi, I'm Vincenzo Aiello. I'm the founder and president of Foregen. When I was at the college, the Fine Art College, my preferred topic was anatomy. So I like to draw the human body. Crossing in the field of medicine wasn't easy because you come with your ideas and you find an environment already structured with their protocols, with their way of thinking, and it's not easy. Also, they see you in a way, not being a medical doctor, and which is understandable. But it wasn't difficult to talk with people for me. The most difficult part was at the beginning because I have to confess you that I participated to some international conferences with Foregen, and when I was telling to the other scientists what I was doing, there was some scientist who was laughing at you in the face, and it's not a nice experience. But now I feel that with some difficulties, the concept is understood. People know that there are the medicine knows that there is a company that wants to regrow this body part. Since when I was a child, I have always read books about cells, cells differentiation. So in a certain way, I have not difficulties in understanding. When I read the PubMed, even if So that was my experience. The very first step was that I had a clear idea on how to regrow the organ, because I already knew at that time some good technology, in my opinion. So I could see the future at that time. I could see that we could use that technology to start the process, at least start. But the most difficult part was to talk with donors, with people who wanted to help, because they didn't believe I would be able to do such thing. So that was the most difficult part. So I did the step by step. I arrived at the medicine later. I wanted to create a kind of field around of people that share with me the mission, which in my opinion is the first thing. And I found this in California. I'm in Italy, so we don't have this problem in Italy. It's a country that doesn't circumcise, usually, normally, unless you have medical reasons. But in California there were those good qualities of people, also open-minded, also rich people. Why not? Because you need money for the research. At the beginning they were hostile, I have to tell you, but then they shared with me the mission. So that was the first thing. Then when I had this kind of environment around me, I started to talk with the companies, so the medical companies, and I made some mistakes, and I learned from those mistakes. Because, for instance, I spoke at the beginning with urologists, American urologists. But how can urologists understand a problem that they create, right? And I understood this later. It was very important when I realized that, because I shifted to biologists. So the biologists were the guys who gave me the right direction. And in some way we understood each other. We understood each other immediately, because I had already some notion of biology. We started to collaborate each other, influencing each one the field of the other. When I met Elena Bondioli, the Italian biotechnology, she understood immediately the concept, and she offered to help. So we worked together very well, and it was a very good relation of work, I would say. But even after a while, I understood it wasn't enough, because we did with them, with their decellularization. No, she already had done had used this technology with other body parts, with organs of animals. So she's absolutely an expert. So we know what happens when you use this technology. But at a certain point, the only decellularization in our case, it's not enough. Because then the problem of three-dimensionality comes back. Because most of them think that when you have a skin decellularized, you put over the arm or over the leg, and it works, but what happens anatomically and three-dimensionally? You have a flat tissue attached over a solid tissue, like in which it can do directly the foundations, so it's easy. In our case, we have to create a double cylinder, which is attached by two circles to the skin, and bring blood vessel, oxygen, and nerve endings to the top. It's very ambitious. It's a completely different concept. It's not the same. It's not the same. So, from this consideration, I started to think to the possibility, because we already did the research on rat and sheep. So, according to the law, according to EMA and FDA, we can immediately do the human trial for them. But we think that to transplant correctly the organ, we need to do recellularization first. And from this consideration, I started to think, and that's why I am here in Piestny, because I found this great scientist, Dr. Žiaran, who works with the recellularization in the bioreactor, which is the three-dimensional area, in which we can finally create the entire organ the way I wanted, I always wanted.
What would you say to donors that for them, sometimes our progress can be a little opaque?
You know, obviously, when you find the right people, the right scientists, smart, because, you know, I'm proud to say that we are working with very smart people. Very smart people. People who are, this is, you know, we come back to urologists, because Dr. Žiaran is a urologist, but he's a biotechnology and a tissue engineer. So he has both the profiles. So these guys are very smart and think out of the box. Consider that we are doing something that has never done before. So we are building the data for the first time. And once we have the data, we know which direction we can go. So the data tell us where we have to go. We are the creators of the data with our research. And when we go more deeply in the research, we have more doubts and more questions. And that's more interesting. That's why it's like a tree. You have different branches and more branches and branches and branches. That's how it works.
Why are we interviewing in a rose garden?
Well, because this has to do with the logo. The idea of the logo was to create something that wasn't controversial, understandable, and also in some way light. The logo describes a bud of a rose, which is basically the same concept of a clitoride or a foreskin. So we are talking of the reproduction. And the bud of the rose represents very well these concepts, in my opinion. So I tried to design something very simple but understandable and direct to the concept, to the heart of the work. When with Carlo conceived the project, we had the idea that once we arrive to regenerate a human foreskin, and the human foreskin is transplanted to the first human being, mission is accomplished. So we did our job. But this is an ambitious goal, but it will be the foundation of the future work, because the work will be perfected later, will be improved. But I think that the mission is to arrive to the human trial. That's why we kept the company non-profit, because in this way we can decide the strategy, the scientific strategy that so far has been successful. That is something you cannot do if you let come in some investor that thinks naturally of money first. We are not thinking of money first. We are thinking to regrow the organ as nature intended. And then, it will come, even the money, if it will come. Well, we are very scrupulous with the money. We are very careful not to waste their money, even $1. I want to thank the donors, because obviously the donor for me are incentive. Like if you have your family and what you do for your kids, in some way they are my kids. So they are, it's an incentive for me to do better. And if there weren't the donor, we were not where we are today. So it's very important, the role of the donor. And they are, I could see in different also conferences, I saw a lot of young generation, which is something that I love, because I see people smart. I can understand from the questions. They make these very smart questions. They are beautiful people, because the smartest generation, we deal with the smartest generation. I'm very happy to deal with this kind of guys.
Have you come to a point where you think that our work has influenced the general level of knowledge in the world?
Definitely. I'm sure of this. Because 20 years ago, it wasn't like that. When I was at the Genital Integrity Conference in 2010 at the University of Berkeley in California, I was invited. I wanted to introduce the work of Foregen. I found an environment very hostile. They couldn't believe that this was happening. So everything changed now. We have a lot of people that were skeptical at the time that support us. And I can receive a lot of, emails in which they say their gratitude. So things have definitely changed. And in this, I'm proud to say that it's because of Foregen. There are many donors who ask me about the frenulum. I see things in this way. The frenulum is like a director of the orchestra. But then you have in the orchestra each musician that is playing his own instruments. And each one of them is reading the music, right? So if the director, frenulum, doesn't say anything to them, they can read and play the music anyway. So this is the real concept, the comparison between the role of the foreskin and its rigid band and the frenulum. Because the frenulum, in the end, what it is, it's a piece of the rigid band stretched and attached to the glands. What is important, it's the foreskin with its rigid band, not really the frenulum. That I'm very happy, the work excites me. I'm happy to deal with people full of energies. They are beautiful people, really beautiful. I can see a lot of passion. And, I think that I'm dealing with the smartest generation this period as I ever had. And, the most committed generation, I would say. And this is a great thing, a great energy for me also. So I like to talk with these young generations, because they know everything. Definitely, they know everything better than doctors. I remember once, maybe this you can cut if you want. In 2015, I think, there was Eric Klopper, who was the spokesman of Foregen, and I sent him to speak in a conference of American urologist. I don't remember if it was in Louisiana or Nashville. Anyway, he had to tell them everything about the foreskin. And they were doctors, urologists. They didn't know anything because they were circumcised themselves. So just